I am Sienna Walker, hailing from a quaint and tranquil coastal town in California, where the community is small and close-knit. In this close-knit community, everyone is familiar with one another, and the atmosphere is pleasantly lively, radiating warmth and a sense of belonging. My family may not have wealth, but we find joy in our simple, happy lives. My parents put in a tremendous amount of effort. I cherish the people in my life and strive to cultivate a nurturing environment filled with love and care for my brother, Lucas Walker, and myself, Elijah, who is 3 years my senior, has been my friend and protector since childhood. Our bond is strong, and we have always enjoyed a harmonious relationship, free from significant conflicts or arguments. He is a considerate brother, always looking out for me, worrying and caring for me through the smallest challenges, whether academic or personal. He has always been there. I recall the days he taught me to ride a bike, the moments he patiently sat with me to tackle difficult math problems, and the afternoons spent playing in the little garden behind our house. To me, my brother is not just family, he is my best friend. However, when Elijah turned 18, he had to leave home for university in the city. This marked the first time our family experienced such a long absence, and it felt like a departure from the days we grew up together, playing in the garden. As we sat studying next to each other, a sense of emptiness began to seep into the small house. Especially for me, the distance between us was not only geographical but also in the rhythm of life. Elijah was now busy with his student life while I remained in town living in my familiar rhythm. From then on, we only met on special occasions, especially during the end-of-year holidays or major holidays. Every time he returned, I eagerly awaited, as if the time apart only increased the affection between us. Perhaps the distance made us cherish the few moments together even more. Every holiday Elijah always bought me gifts, small but meaningful gifts, making me feel his care and love more than before. Sometimes it was a book he knew I would like, sometimes it was a jacket he happened to find that suited me the day I prepared to leave for college. With my heart could not hide the excitement. There would be no more long separations between me and my brother. I would be living close to him, sharing moments of college life together just like we had shared our childhood at home. The feeling of excitement and joy covered the whole long trip. When the bus stopped at the stop, I gazed out the window and spotted the familiar silhouette of Elijah. My heart raced when I realized he was watching me as soon as I stepped off the bus, and I struggled to contain my emotions. I dashed toward him, abandoning all my belongings, my feet directed solely at the brother I had been apart from for what felt like an eternity. The moment our bodies connected, it was as if all the distance melted away. Without hesitation, I leaped into Elijah's embrace, holding him close. My entire being was enveloped in the comfort and reassurance that only my brother could provide. Elijah chuckled gently, affectionately patting my head as he used to do in our childhood, and said in a soothing tone, "Lily, you've grown up, but still like a child." But for me at that moment it didn't matter how old I was. I just knew that I was very happy to finally be close to him, no longer separated or waiting for him. For a long time that feeling was so relieved, as if I had found a part of myself after many years of separation. After hugging my brother tightly, I felt all my worries and fatigue seems to disappear. Elijah took my luggage and together we walked back to the boarding house he had arranged. The city streets were bustling and unfamiliar to me, but his presence beside me made everything more pleasant. On the way, Elijah told me about his life here, about the things he had experienced during the years away from home. I felt his confidence and maturity, which made me feel even more secure when we arrived. Elijah took me to his room. The room was small but cozy, neatly arranged and fully furnished. I felt his care in every corner of the room, from the desk to the bookshelf to the bed. Everything was neat, exuding warmth and familiarity. With this thoughtful arrangement made me feel close, as if this space was not only for him but also to welcome me, helping me feel comfortable in the new environment. Since we were brothers, we decided to live together to support each other in our daily lives. For me, this was not only a convenience but also a great comfort when entering university life. Having him by my side at this time of great change, I found everything seemed easier, and there was nothing to worry. That he created a safe place for me where I knew I would not have to face the challenges alone. But gradually I realized that life was not always as smooth as I thought. When I lived with him I felt safe and familiar. But then things slowly changed in ways I did not expect it. At first everything was normal. We went to school together, ate together, and shared daily stories. Like when we were at home, my parents were also happy to know that we could support each other in our new life. However, that closeness gradually became complicated. Emotions that were hard to name began to creep into me. The close brotherly affection now carried an ambiguity that I had never felt before. The moments of sitting next to each other, the times we accidentally touched hands, made me feel strange. The emotions between us had evolved beyond mere familial bonds. I found myself entangled in a whirlwind of feelings, both known and unfamiliar, that eluded my understanding. I attempted to convince myself that these conflicting emotions were merely a fleeting error, perhaps as a result of the shift in our surroundings. The bond we shared intensified, and those emotions began to dominate my thoughts. Coexisting and sharing countless experiences with Elijah blurred the boundaries that once defined us as brothers. Confusion emerged, intertwining feelings with morality, creating a struggle between what was expected and the powerful emotions I felt. Despite my awareness that this might not be right, I found it challenging to fully manage my feelings. The tension wasn't solely mine. Elijah, despite being my brother, was still a man with his own thoughts, sharing the same space with me, a grown woman, which added to his confusion. I could see it in his eyes and gestures, amplifying the turmoil in my heart. It wasn't just Elijah, I too began to grapple with the intricate closeness we shared. The emotions and the unintentional repetition of moments started to blur the boundaries of brotherly love. Initially, I attempted to brush it aside. I reassure myself that everything will be all right. Yet the whirlwind of emotions and guilt intensifies, trapping us with no escape. One evening, after dinner and light conversation, I returned to my room and drifted off to sleep. In the stillness of the night, a faint sound from the other bed stirred me awake. In the soft glow filtering through the window, I noticed Elijah sitting there, wide awake, his gaze heavy with unspoken thoughts. "Elijah, what's wrong?" I inquired gently, my voice still tinged with sleep, yet unable to mask my bewilderment. He regarded me for a brief moment before letting out a sigh, moving closer to sit beside me, his gaze fixed unwaveringly upon me. "I'm uncertain, it's simply that I sense something. There was something very strange between us," he said, his voice low and deep. His words surprised me. "What do you mean?" I asked again, my heart brimming with an indescribable feeling. He was silent for a moment, then gently touched my hand. His touch was warm and tender, as if he sought to convey something hard to articulate. "Have you never felt a special connection between us?" he asked softly. His eyes sparkled with an intensity one had never encountered before, and my heart raced. Yet I held my hand steady in his. "Elijah, I don't know, but we shouldn't," I said, striving to maintain my composure, even as the profound connection between us pulsed in the air. Elijah gazed at me, his eyes brimming with an undeniable allure. "I understand," he whispered. "But whenever I'm with you, I can't help but feel this way. Haven't you ever felt this before?" I couldn't answer right away, feeling his hand tighten around mine in that silence. I also realized that there was an indescribable connection between us. Our eyes were fused as if everything had disappeared. "Elijah, maybe this isn't supposed to be," I said softly. But I didn't take my eyes off him. "But I can't deny this feeling." He smiled softly, his eyes filled with tenderness. "Me too. Sometimes I wonder if these feelings have been there all along, we just never noticed. We let our emotions guide us." Sharing a profound moment, the connection was hard to deny. In the silence of the night we felt the harmony of two souls who had always been together but had never let these emotions speak. That night we were together feeling a special connection that neither of us had ever dared to admit. That moment was a synchronicity far beyond the boundaries of ordinary siblings. When the sky lit up we understood that this relationship had turned into something complicated and difficult to name, not easy to deny. That night changed everything from attachment to an undeniable feeling of a strange affection. From then on our relationship changed dramatically. Whenever we had time we spent private moments together sharing feelings and empathy that we both cherished. That connection grew stronger and stronger. It seemed undeniable that the boundary lines had blurred. For the next year everything went quietly. No one in the family or friends discovered anything unusual. But when Elijah was about to graduate, things began to change. He took a job far away. As time passed, our encounters became less frequent. Yet, each time we reunited, even if only briefly, the depth of our feelings remained unchanged. In fact, the distance seemed to amplify our emotions. Life continues to unfold. And I recognize that my second year of college will bring new changes. I met the person who would change my life forever. As I got to know him, I gradually realized that the relationship between Elijah and me could not last. That was the moment I understood. The bond with Elijah, no matter how profound, was destined to conclude. At that time, Gabriel Bennett was 26 years old, a promising young businessman who had already established a solid career for himself despite his youth. Exuding confidence and insight whenever he appeared, Gabriel Bennett always attracted others, not only because of his calm appearance but also because of the way he solved everything with intelligence and ingenuity. We met by chance at a conference that I attended with a few friends. Gabriel Bennett was the keynote speaker, and throughout the presentation I was captivated by his demeanor and his ability to handle complex issues. After the seminar, we accidentally bumped into each other as we were leaving the room. Gabriel Bennett smiled politely, apologized, and the conversation began naturally, as if we had known each other for a long time. That was the beginning of our relationship. From then on, Gabriel Bennett gradually appeared in my life, and soon we started dating. Although I still had feelings for Elijah at first, Gabriel Bennett's presence became more and more obvious and meaningful. He brought me a sense of stability and security and peace, things I had always been looking for. We shared dreams and ambitions for the future, and Gabriel Bennett made me believe that I could build a fulfilling life with him. After spending some time together, I realized that Gabriel Bennett was the person I could spend the rest of my life with. For Elijah, although my feelings were strong, I understood that it was a relationship that could not continue. That feeling, although very special, had become too complicated and inappropriate. I knew I needed to let go and move on to a new life with Gabriel Bennett, the person I believed would bring me happiness and a stable future. With reality, I knew I had to cut the emotional ties that had bound us for so long. One afternoon, when Elijah came home for the holidays, I decided to talk to him. The tension weighed heavily on my heart, but I knew that this was what I had to do. I went to Elijah, sat across from him, and honestly shared all my thoughts. I told him about Gabriel Bennett, about my feelings, and about the future I wanted to build with that man. I also emphasized that no matter how special our relationship was, it could not last any longer. Elijah listened quietly, his eyes sad but not resentful. He seemed to know this day would come, and after a moment of silence he nodded, agreeing that it was right to end it. Neither of us said much more, but we both understood that it was time to return to our proper roles as brothers. Although this feeling was difficult in the end, I felt relieved that we had both made the right decision. From then on, we gradually returned to a normal relationship like true brothers. On the everything seemed surface easier. We no longer mentioned what had happened, and every time we met, we kept a reasonable distance, chatting lightly as if nothing had happened. Occasionally we would have dinner with our families or sit in the living room watching TV, but there was always an invisible silence between us. Everything seemed stable, but on the inside it was still very fragile. Even though the relationship had ended, I still felt an indescribable feeling. Every time our eyes accidentally met, I felt confused, as if things had never really ended. There were times when just hearing his footsteps approaching would stir up an inexplicable feeling in my heart. I told myself that I had moved on, that our relationship had returned to its proper role. But in reality, that feeling had never really subsided. Even though it was peaceful on the outside, inside I was still mixed with complicated emotions and sometimes tormented. We may have stopped, but I had not completely escaped the haunting of what had happened not long after I graduated from college. And Gabriel Bennett proposed. Our wedding took place with the blessings of family and friends. Elijah was also present, standing silently in the distance, smiling and congratulating me. Now I have started a new chapter in my life with Gabriel Bennett, the person I love and trust. And my life is gradually stabilizing. What happened in the past has now become a lesson. And I know that I made the right choice to step out of that relationship to move towards a better future. Through all that I have been, though, I have realized that there are mistakes that we need to face in order to grow. Those mistakes have taught me about emotional boundaries and the importance of maintaining values. Sometimes in life we are easily drawn into things that are hard to resist, but it is necessary to know when to stop so as not to lose ourselves. I do not seek forgiveness from anyone because the most important thing is that I have faced my mistakes and found a way to fix them. Gabriel Bennett is a part of this change. He helped me understand the value of a true relationship where sincerity and lasting love are the foundation of happiness. I realized that not all emotions should exist, and sometimes letting go is the way to find peace. After getting married, my life gradually stabilized, and we started planning for the future, building a home and planning to have children. The story between Elijah and me is now a thing of the past, a part of my memory that I keep deep in my heart. What happened will always be unforgettable, Mark. But I have learned to accept and move on, Elijah, and I do not talk about the past. And we both understand that the relationship is over forever. Looking back on my own story, I want to share a lesson from my painful experiences and difficult decisions. Sometimes we can easily get caught up in emotions that seem uncontrollable, especially when those closest to us become our source of comfort and support. But through all the difficulties and mistakes, I realized that maintaining moral values and emotions are emotions that are best controlled. Do not let a moment of weakness lead you too far. The important thing is to know when to stop to move towards the right relationships that bring true joy and peace. I chose to let go and accept this lesson and move towards the future with the person I love. That is what I hope everyone is capable of doing it as well.